What's going on, people? Today, we're going to be talking about the big man on campus. Or, more so, the big man not quite on campus yet. And that is, of course, Rell. I've been asked like 450 million times to talk about this game because it's apparently the most anticipated game basically ever when it comes to Roblox. It is hyped up beyond oblivion, and some of the stuff genuinely does look relatively interesting. So I wanted to talk about a few things when it came to the game, whether or not I think it's overhyped. I want to talk about the progression. I want to talk about the animations, the quality, the combat, all that kinds of stuff. What I know of the game so far. Now, granted, I will be totally upfront with you that I haven't done a ton of research. I watched through the entirety of their Rell movie that they put together a while back, and I will just knock the developers and the people who made that right now. Holy good Lord Jesus, is that video poorly made. They could have condensed that entire video into like 20 minutes and it took them an hour. And there is so much just rambling and non-information. I don't let that take anything away from the game itself, but I don't know how people consistently watch through stuff like that because it just took forever. They might be able to code, but their video creating skills need some work. Anyways, the first topic on the board is hype. Is this game overhyped? Is it going to live up to the hype? And the answer to these, yes, clearly this game is insanely overhyped, and no, there is a 0% chance that this ever lives up to the hype. I don't think those are controversial statements to any stretch of the imagination. I would even go as far to say that the developers of the game probably agree with those statements, because the lengths that people have gone to hype up this game are nothing short of mind-boggling. People seem to think that this is going to be like the God's gift to Roblox games, where it's going to come out, it's going to completely shake up the formula, it's going to be something completely new with all these new systems and all this stuff that we've absolutely never seen before. And I don't know if I'm missing something, but that's not what I've been seeing. Like, from what I can tell, Rell definitely has a lot of good things going for it and some good ideas, but a lot of those ideas are not new. They're taken from elsewhere, and combining them all together is a good idea, and I don't fault the developers for taking inspiration from elsewhere. Of course not. That'd be ridiculous. But that being said, a lot, if not all of this stuff is not new concepts to gaming as a whole, or even just gaming on Roblox. And I think what a lot of people don't quite understand is that by way overhyping the game and getting yourself to this point where you think that this is going to be the greatest game on planet Earth and it's going to replace every game ever, you're basically setting yourself up for failure, because not only are you putting expectations ridiculously high and pressure ridiculously high on the people who are making it, so that way they feel like they need to live up to this impossible expectation that they can't, but also when the game inevitably comes out, you're gonna be disappointed. Like, that's just going to happen. Now, of course, I am the last person that you're going to find to say that you should just set your expectations low and expect the worst all the time out of people. I mean, for God's sakes, I've been yelling at people about YBA and how they should demand better for years, and nobody listens to me. But regardless, the game is obviously incredibly overhyped. There's a 0% chance it lives up to all that hype, and while it's okay to be excited about the game, some people have brought this way too far, and I would wager most of those people are young kids who have been playing Blox Fruit for 800 years and just really want something better. So I can't say I totally fault them, considering that they're playing bottom-of-the-barrel garbage, but still, like, come on, guys, get it together. The next topic of conversation I wanted to talk about was the progression. Now, progression is the thing that tons of people have cited to me, and the developers themselves cite as some revolutionary new formula and some huge new take on the Roblox game platform, and I just think this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, I'm sorry. You guys are joking, right? Now, you can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on this. Feel free. But as far as I could tell from the way that they described the progression in their game, basically, this game is a mix of most AAA games nowadays when it comes to progression on top of RuneScape. To be fully transparent, I've never played RuneScape, but I have an understanding of the game's mechanics and its progression systems. And from this little screenshot right here that you should be seeing on screen, you can see a whole bunch of talents which have 500 levels per talent. And the way that you level up these talents is by doing them. So if you wanted to go cut down a tree, you could level up your woodcutting talent. Now, first of all, guys, does cutting down a tree really sound all that interesting to you? Does it? Seriously and genuinely, does it? Because personally, I would almost prefer these crappy bandit beaters over going and cutting down a tree for 15 minutes. But I respect the attempt by the developers to give the tree cutters their game, because if you want to progress through the game solely by cutting down trees, that's an option. And more options for progression, even if those options suck, is a good thing. Now, in terms of that other aspect of progression I was talking about, it's basically every other AAA game on the market. What I mean by that is that your progression is tied across everything you do. And this is an initiative that's been made by a lot of companies and game studios these days in order to make it so there isn't a necessarily meta way to progress in these games, as well as making you encouraged to interact with all of the game's systems. So for example, in a lot of open world games nowadays, you'll get experience for exploring, as well as fighting, as well as doing mini games. You get the idea. Basically, the point of the progression systems is to make it so that you progress and get XP for doing pretty much anything in the game world. And that's what it seems like Rell is doing. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a good progression system. I think that this is the best way to do progression, and it's the reason that we see it in so many AAA games and really just games in general nowadays. That being said, it's also not even remotely original. And as I said earlier, I'm not faulting the developers for going around and touting this as an original system, because I don't think they have. They've said that it's a shakeup to the general systems on Roblox, which is true because for some reason, Roblox just hasn't gotten the memo from every other game that's been released in the last 10 years. But regardless, the game's developers are not coming out here and saying, hey guys, this is a revolutionary concept for gaming. They're saying, basically, these idiots on Roblox haven't been doing this, so we're going to. The problem is that the fan base for this game has been running around saying that this is a revolutionary concept for gaming, which is just, wow. You need to go and play more games. At the end of the day, what it's going to end up coming down to is execution, because you can have a really good system, but if you're unable to execute it well, yeah, that's going to be an issue. So I was saying earlier about how it's good to avoid metas and make it so that way, doing everything is sort of equal value, but that can run into problems when cutting down wood is significantly easier than fighting enemies, and so you make the XP gains for cutting down wood really bad, and then nobody wants to do that to progress because it takes forever, so then you just end up right back where you started, where everyone's just killing enemies anyway, and it effectively becomes a bandit beater regardless, because if it wasn't, then the only way to progress would be exceedingly boring. So it's going to end up being a balancing act, and only time will actually tell whether or not these guys can pull it off. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about when it came to Rell was the animation and visual fidelity versus the actual game itself. Now, as you guys should know by now, I err on the side of caution when it comes to basically all of these way overhyped games, not just on Roblox, but in gaming as a whole. Not only that, but I start to get even more skeptical of games when they make it a point to constantly show off their animations and their visual effects. Because unfortunately, I have seen a very large correlation between good animations and visual effects to not really caring or thinking very hard about the gameplay, and then ending up with a game that just simply isn't fun but looks really cool. And at the end of the day, if you have a game that looks really cool but isn't fun, then you might as well have not even bothered to begin with, because the whole point of playing games is to have fun. And to be clear, this is not a knock against the people animating over at Rell. I think they've done an absolutely phenomenal job, probably the best on the entire platform. The stuff they've done on there is really, really, really good, but animation quality and visual effects do not directly correlate to a good game, despite what many small children will probably tell you. The guys over at Rell Games have showed off a few moments of combat, and I don't think the combat necessarily is objectively bad. It doesn't look like the kinds of systems that I enjoy playing with, but just because I don't enjoy playing with them doesn't mean they're bad. That being said, I'm not really going to be talking too much on the combat because, as the guys themselves have said, combat isn't the entire game. And so if there's a lot more stuff going on here, that's a lot of stuff that you need to make fun. And that almost in of itself feels like it might end up posing a problem, because if you try to make a jack-of-all-trades game that focuses on so many different aspects, but you don't excel in any of them, then you're just going to end up with a mediocre game. Because here's the thing, despite all the media I've consumed on Rell Seas, and despite what people have been telling me in my DMs for like the better part of 6-7 months, who knows how long at this point, I still don't know what the focus of the game is, and that's not good, I don't think. What exactly is Rell Seas supposed to be? That's something that I don't think they've made very clear yet. And if their answer is going to be, well, we want it to be like 12 games in one, well, you better hope that you have the knowledge to pull off making 12 games in one actually enjoyable for all 12 parts of that game. I think the real tragedy here is the fact that they're doing all of this on Roblox, because the Roblox platform itself is so unbelievably limiting. Now, granted, I'm sure that it would be a hell of a lot more difficult to put this together in an actual game engine and get people to play it, so I understand why they've done it. But when it comes down to it, Roblox is just such a mess, and even watching some of their footage, you can just see the Roblox jank seeping in, and it's never a fun thing to look at. I can't stand the Roblox jank, and I feel bad for all of the people trying to make these big, high-profile games. I really don't envy them for having to deal with all this garbage. It would be nice if Roblox, gave people better tools for dealing with all the crap, but they don't, and they're never going to. So anytime I see a game like this shooting itself in the foot by putting itself on Roblox, it makes me a little bit upset. Now, for the conclusion of this video, I think the question on everyone's mind is, am I excited? Am I going to play Rell Seas? What do I think about it? What do I think about its relationship to Blox Fruit, my favorite game? And the answer to those questions is, well, while I'm not necessarily excited for Rell Seas, I don't really care about it, to be perfectly honest with you. I am cautiously optimistic, mostly because I hope that people get the game that they're looking for. And I think those of you who have been stranded playing Blox Fruit, although some of that is definitely a fault of your own for constantly supporting that crappy game, at the end of the day, I do hope better for you. Taking one singular look at Rell Seas makes it so abundantly clear to me that the people that are developing that game care so much more about it than the people at Blox Fruit. And if I can see the day where a game comes out and those money-grubbing scumbags over at Blox Fruit don't make as much money, and the king of Roblox One Piece games, or they're probably going to rebrand themselves because of all the copyright stuff, I have no idea, but the king of Roblox open world sea games, who fucking knows, man, becomes a game that people actually care about and put time and effort into, well, that would be a good day. There are other things that I could talk about for this video, stuff like AI and how clearly they need to make sure that the AI is on some level closer to Deep Woken than Blox Fruit, so that way it's not just, a complete dumpster fire, defeat 8 snowmans and all. But regardless, I'm hoping for a money out of 10 on this one. I really am. Money out of 10 for Rell Seas would be good for everybody, even if I myself am not personally that excited. Anyways, those are my thoughts. People have been asking for them for a while, so hopefully that gets some information out there. Remember, be excited, but don't be too excited because you're making the developers' jobs harder and you're setting yourself up for failure. With that though, I am done here. So if you enjoyed the video, you can leave a like and subscribe. If you didn't, don't. And with all that being said, have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you guys next time.